ReliaQuest mental performance coaches Dr. Nicole Detling and Derin McMains interview top performers across multiple industries to unpack the strategies and the mindset they use to get the job done. Welcome to No Show Dogs, powered by ReliaQuest. Hey, welcome back to the No Show Dogs podcast, powered by ReliaQuest. My name's Derin McMains. I'm our Director of Mental Performance. And today I'm alongside our founder and CEO, Brian Murphy. Murph, what's going on, man?
D-Mac, good to be with you.
Oh, man, it is good to be here with you, especially today because we always talk about your golf game on the onset. And today, our guest, we're so fired up that he's here because we're bringing in a bit of a ringer to help you get a little better. We talk about getting a little better here all the time. And so today we have a professional golf caddy, Jacob Fleck. Jacob, welcome to No Show Dogs.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can help that much, but I can try.
It's asking a lot. My game is not good, but thanks for being here, Jacob.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, before we really jump in to this, let's just talk about your handicap right now. Like we always get an update. Where are we at right now?
I'm still sitting at a 15. Kind of goes up and down, and still working on maintaining that tempo throughout the round and focus. But I feel like I'm improving, but it's not coming through on the scores. So, but it can, it's a game of misses, right? So I can play one day and feel great, feel like I got it all figured out. The next day I feel like I, couldn't tee the ball up. So it's the struggle is real, but I'm grinding away.
Gotcha. So before we really get into you and your journey, Jacob, and kind of how you define performance, before we get there though, what would you say? Because there's people out here listening that are like, oh, just give us a quick tip. What's a quick tip for someone with a handicap around 15, 16, 17, like right away, like what, and I get it. Like you're an expert at what you do. You might not say it, I'll say it. But generally experts know there's too many variables. It's like, look, man, I can't just give one thing, but I'm going to challenge you. Like what is just one or two things that we can get Murph to a 14 or a 13 here?
I think just if you're talking about getting your scores lower, probably the easiest way to do that is practice your short game and your putting. And then kind of two answers. And then the other thing would just be course strategy, like knowing what your limits are and then just hitting like a really safe shot that might be, your buddies might make fun of you, like, oh, you're not going for it, whatever, but just playing smart and practicing your short game. Those two things, without even improving your physical ability, I think you can dramatically improve your scores.
I love it. So I should remove the phrase, I didn't come here to lay up.
Yeah, I think.
I was about to say, you're in trouble. I know you well enough. When I heard him say play safe, I went, oh, that ain't good. That ain't Murph.
It is funny, though. It's like I was actually, prior to 2020 in cybersecurity, it didn't feel like anybody of our customers played golf. Post 2020, I feel like everybody plays golf. So we'll have a customer or prospect or partner come in town, like, hey, we'd love to play. And so I'll play this week with one of our customers, and it is interesting when I get out there. I'll think about this round coming up, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna chop everything in two. I know I can hit that 160 shot. So par 5, I just need to get off the tee in some kind of safe zone, and then hit 2 160 shots, and par bogey, whatever, bogey's my friend. If I can play bogey golf right now, life is good.
There you go.
So I think that way. And then you get out there, and it's like, I don't know, man, that was a pretty sweet drive, right? So it's the discipline of repeating that, right?
Yeah, the discipline, for sure.
But the putting, I try to hit like 200 putts a week in practice, because you have the little mats. You see it back there.
Yeah,
I've got the putt perfect mat.
Yeah.
I got them everywhere. So
nice.
If I'm on a call or something, I'm rolling putts.
Perfect.
And I do think it's helped. Also, I stopped changing putters all the time. Instagram has me nailed as a golfer, so I've got every training aid, every secret tip book. I got it all. So
that's good, man. Speaking of Instagram, by the way, like this, Jacob's a great follow, by the way. And it's I'm going to get into your bio now because I just want to get that out there because people are going, who's Jacob Fleck? So Jacob is in his 5th year as a professional golf caddy. He's caddied on the PGA Tour, where he was with Tom Kim during the 2022 Wyndham Championship there when he won that tournament. He's been on the Asian Tour, a couple wins on the Asian Tour, also the European Tour, and is currently caddying on the LIV Tour. He's been to major championships as well as the Tokyo Olympics. And check this out. He's caddied in 27 different countries, right? Which is amazing, right? And that's what I was talking about. Instagram, I mentioned Instagram. This guy, if you go on his page right now, you're going to see like Bermuda, Zimbabwe, Saudi Arabia, Singapore. And correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like, did you climb Mount Fuji at one point? Did I see that?
Yeah, we were in Japan and I had a few days off, so just went to climb Mount Fuji. Yeah,
sure.
Actually,
I mean, why not on your off day?
It was go to a movie or climb Fuji. And,
So I'm actually going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro after the last LIV tournament in a couple weeks, which is the tallest mountain in Africa. So
wow,
super excited about that.
We might have to talk about that here in a bit, but let's talk about caddying first, though.
Sure, yeah.
Let's talk right about it, because this is where we're going today. Is there's a lot of great business leaders, entrepreneurs out there. They're doing some amazing things, and they couldn't do it without their support network, right? And so, what I would love to jump into today is like, what is your performance though? Like, it's clear to see the golfers that you work with. Like, we know what their performance is. They have a scorecard, they have a score, but it's the person on the back, right? It's the person walking with them. And I'm curious, like, how do you, like, what is your performance? Like, let's just start there. Like, what is the golf caddy's performance?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. And I don't think there's a metric the same way that a golfer or an entrepreneur has that performance metric, because it's really up to the golfer. We're there to service the golfer's needs and to make their life easier and to give them the most accurate information on the golf course that we can. And so a really good wake-up call for me when I realized that my performance wasn't exactly tied to the performance of the golfer was after the first win with Tom, he let me go a week later. And so I'm sitting there kind of banging my head against the wall, like, what did I do wrong here? He just won. Like, he's 20 years old. This, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I was caddying at an elite level like what he needed to go on and try to win majors. And so I had to really look at myself and look at my skills and weaknesses and see what the other caddies were doing or not doing that I was doing or not doing. Like, I had to figure it out. And with caddying, there's no resource, there's no handbook for how to caddy or what. And so I just had to figure out from experience and from just kind of having an objective view of myself and not thinking that I knew everything. So that kind of helped me to become a better caddy from that. And that experience, as hard as it was probably so good for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in the matter of a week, right? Your
Yeah.
first time caddying on PGA to win a championship.
Yep.
And then 1 week later, you're out of a job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how'd you process that, right? I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, for a week, I didn't really want to talk to anybody and didn't really want to go anywhere.
Sure.
Because we, we were also good friends. And so there's that aspect of like, well, professionally, yeah, I don't have a job, but also it's like, man, this guy who I thought was my friend, he doesn't want me there anymore. Like, what's going on here? So, it's helped me to grow a lot as a person, not only just a caddy.
Gotcha. I want to read an excerpt from the book Up and Down by Bubba Watson, where he talks about caddies. Because when I heard you say friend, and then you talked about accurate information like strategist, this is kind of how he laid it out in his book. When he's talking about caddies here, he says, you're a friend and a counselor and a psychologist and a strategist and a confidant. It's a really strange job because at the end of the day, you're just a guy that carries the bag, but you play such an important role in that person's success. And I think any golfer will tell you that the caddy is probably the most important club that they have in the bag. So so when you talk about performance, like controlling what you can control, right? It's kind of what I hear. Like, the one thing you probably learned from that was like, shoot, like, I thought I did a great job, but I guess I don't know, right? And it's like, but one thing you mentioned was providing accurate information. And so when I think about like improving at your performance, like, what did you learn from that where you're like, when you were self-evaluating, you're going back like, shoot, man, what did I do wrong there? Was that like a part of it where you like, maybe I wasn't maybe I didn't give them the right lie, or maybe I didn't, maybe I wasn't the best strategist, or maybe I wasn't the best counselor? Like when you unpack that, like what did you come up with?
Yeah. So, what I realized was that even though you're giving the right information all the time, sometimes you have to stay out of the way and let the golfer play kind of how they want to play. And because ultimately we're not hitting any shots. And so I think there's an understanding of, all right, he really needs me right now. Like, he's kind of not thinking clearly. He needs somebody to really be assertive and make decisions. And right now he's in the zone. So stay out of his way, let him go. And just having the awareness of the guy's energy and how he's playing to be able to decipher through that, I think was important, instead of like always trying to force my opinion into the decision-making process when maybe he didn't need it or want it.
Do you talk about that going in, like on the front end of working with somebody? Do you kind of go through a checklist of like, hey, how do you like this to go? You know, I kind of think about, I play at a couple courses where it's, you know, you have a caddy and walking courses, and I always appreciate at the beginning, it's kind of like, hey, what are your goals today? What are you thinking? What do you want? You know, how do we want to loop today? Like, what do we want that to be? It's just it's going to be fun. And, you know, hopefully you brought your mosquito spray and waterproof shoes, because we're going to be everywhere. But, you know, how do you set that up with a player to kind of feel them out, or do you just kind of learn it over time?
Yeah, I would definitely ask the question first, like, what exactly do you want from me? And then I would just really try to execute those things. And I've learned that with every golfer, it's different, what they need, what they want from a caddy. But yeah, just having clarity about that, and then just making sure you stick to that. And then it changes with different seasons. When guys are playing well or they're not playing well, what they want from you is different. And so that's tough to navigate as well, because you just kind of like, hey, last week you told me you wanted this, now I'm doing that, and you're saying don't do that, do this instead. So, I mean, golfers are very fickle, especially elite golfers. I love being around them because it forces you to just be better all the time, because there's no room for, oh man, sorry, I overslept, or there was traffic getting to the course. Like, there's none of that. Like, you have to be firing on all cylinders every day. And if you're not, like, sure, they're going to notice and they might give you a break for a day, but like, you're not going to last very long, because there's somebody who's, you know, ready to go.
Yeah. And that's the world of performance, right? I mean, that's like, yeah. I mean, that's the world of high performance. Like, some people say, oh, we're in a high performing organization, but the reality is there are standards in real performance environments. There are standards. And if they're not met, you're not there. Yeah. Super simple, right? It is very clear. And I love how you said, like, you might get a day, but after that, that's kind of it, you know? And it's like, if any organization wants to truly to be like a world-class, high-performing organization, it is a level of standard that you don't waver. This is what it means to work here. This is what it means to perform here. You either can do it or you can't. If you can't, that's okay. We'll find somebody else that wants to be a part of a world-class organization to come and do it. So I love that, man. We met over dinner a few months back, right? You guys were in Vegas playing a tournament. We had a mutual friend, and so I just rolled down the dinner and met you for the first time. And one thing that always stuck out with me, and that's why I couldn't wait to talk to you more, was I was just like I'm a curious person in general, and I just was amazed. I'm like, wait, like what do you do? How do you do it? And I remember there was another caddy there who had just started, right? And so I think he'd been caddying for a week, maybe, right? And so I might get this story wrong, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. But you were talking about, you went out, part of your performance is to gather information on the course, right? And so you were talking about what you did on the course that day, and you're like, oh, I was only out there 2 hours, you know, because the sun went down or something like that. And the other caddy was like, or he goes, a whole 2 hours? And then you go, well, yeah, and I only got in like 3 holes or 4 holes. And he was like, you only got it. And he like flipped he thought 2 hours was a lot. And then to hear that you took 2 hours, that's pretty close, right? I mean, that's how the conversation went.
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
Yeah. And so anyway, that's what blew my mind, was like the level of detail that it takes to perform at the level that you perform at as a professional golf caddy. I think would be really cool for people to understand, because I was blown away. Like, my course management is get on the tee box.
Yeah.
And go, where's the hole? Like, that's kind of my course
Roll
strategy.
a few putts 10 minutes before the tee time and get out there and get after it.
Which is, and you're probably looking at us like, you schlubs. But but that's why I get fascinated with this. So like, can you just kind of walk us through, like, when you're out on the course, right? Your job is to make sure that golfer can swing his club with complete clarity, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And so what's the work that you do beforehand to get them to that place?
Yeah, I think really what we're trying to do is just get the best score, the best result that we can. And then so making sure, I like the expression, no stone unturned. And so we go out on the course, and I like to walk kind of slowly and just kind of take in everything. And what you're looking for off the tee is where they're going to land the golf ball. So you're looking at bunkers, hazards. If there's a lot of hazards at the distance they would hit their driver, you look at, okay, let's hit another club off that tee, maybe a 3-wood or an iron or something, and you're just imagining your golfer play, where he would hit it or what questions he would ask you, because you start to learn their tendencies, right? Like, oh, there's water on the left, so he's going to hit it probably in the right, and let's go see how is the right rough, and let's imagine we're in the right rough right now and the pin is here. Like, what is he going to be thinking? Where is the trouble spot going to be? Where is the safer, easier place to be from going to be? So that then when you get in those situations, you're like, well, I've already planned for this and this is what we should do. And then on the greens, you're just getting a feel for how far the ball is going to release on the greens. So golfers now are so accurate with launch monitors. And so there's
What's a launch monitor?
So it tells you data about the shot. So it gives you how far the ball carried, the spin rate, the spin axis, so if it's curving left or right. And so my golfer uses that on the golf course. And then so we get instant feedback how far he hit that ball. And it's like a bubble number, as if you're hitting inside with no wind. Okay, so then we see how far the ball actually went, and then we could subtract the wind. Like if we're into the wind, and the GC quad, the launch monitor said it went 150, and then we get up on the green and we see, oh, it actually carried 147. So there was 3 yards of hurt, we would say, hurting wind into the wind. So when we get in the tournament and it's 150 to the hole, he's like, okay, well, what's the wind doing? Oh, well, it's hurting. Well, how much is it hurting? 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have to give an exact number. And the launch monitor is really good because it gives him feedback for how far he's hitting it, and then my feedback for if I was accurate on the wind or not. So we actually have a little game where we bet a few dollars, like who can be more, like he's trying to hit a number, I'm trying to give this accurate information, and then we see who's closer. Just, it's like a fun game when we're practicing to get better at those things. But when we're walking the course, yeah, we're really just getting a feel for how the golfer would play it. And I've learned that you can't really overdo it. I've walked it and twice, and then walked it again like the day before the tournament, and just found something new that I didn't see before. And then so I realized, well, okay, this is probably going to happen all the time, that you think you've seen everything and then you find something else, and that could be, one shot. And one shot at this level is worth plenty to make it worth it. So, yeah.
Man, this is the level of obsession, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think like no matter what role you have at the highest levels, you got to be obsessed with it, right? I mean, you got to go out there and go, I'm going to walk it one more time.
Yeah.
Like no stone unturned, right? And that's, can you teach that? I don't know.
I don't know. For me, it's like you feel better when you show up for the first round knowing like, all right, well, I did everything I could do. And then when the tournament's over and you've seen what the result is, you feel better too, because you're like, all right, well, I did everything I could. I think in the past, I maybe didn't have that great a result and then felt like, oh man, I wish I would have like checked this or that. And when you've made those mistakes and then you see how the preparation helps you to avoid making those mistakes.
When it comes to accountability, like, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this have potentially watched is it Full Swing? Is that the name of the show on Netflix? Yeah. and can see the interesting relationship between golfer and caddy. But there's a level of accountability that you're going to have to hold him to at one point, right? Because, we're all human. We don't always make the best decisions for ourselves, and we get caught up in our emotions or whatever it may be, right? And that's why it always helps to have a coach and someone alongside you that kind of understands your goals and what you're going after. So kind of with that in mind, like, what's your approach to holding someone accountable that's essentially paying you, right? And you're like, man, if I piss this guy off, he might not bring me. You're right. I mean, that's, I don't know. Does that go through your head, or I don't know?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I think to be really a top caddy, you have to be willing to put it all on the line and not be afraid of what he's going to think. And the really top players are going to appreciate that kind of honesty. They don't want yes people around them. Some golfers do, and some caddies are definitely just yes, perfect, yep. But I'm not like that. I want to help my guy get better. Obviously, he has to want to get better. But I mean, I'll tell him the truth, like whatever I think about his game. If he asks me, I'm not gonna say it unsolicited. But if he says, "Hey, what do you think I can do to get better?" I'm not gonna hold back and sugarcoat it, because I think that's what it takes to be really, really good. Like, there's a story about Kobe Bryant when his first year in the league, he had like a bunch of air balls. And he was like, well, what's going on here? Like, every shot is online. Why am I having these air balls? Well, the reality was his legs weren't strong enough, because he was used to playing like a 32-game season, and now he's got to play, I don't know how many 80 games they play in the NBA, and his legs were just not strong enough. He's like, I didn't know that, right? So what does that look like for a golfer? Well, might be their short game or a particular range yardage that they're not very good at, and it's like, well, this is what you need to get better at to improve your performance. Sure. Yeah. I'm really big on Kobe stuff. I love Kobe. Yeah. And all his like kind of mantras and stuff. Yeah.
No Show Dogs is brought to you by ReliaQuest, a global leader in cybersecurity. ReliaQuest helps enterprise cybersecurity teams increase visibility, reduce complexity, and manage risk through its security operations platform, Gray Matter. Powered by decades of experience and streamlined by AI and automation, ReliaQuest exists to make security possible. Learn more at ReliaQuest.com. I want to learn a little bit more about you, because when you mentioned that on an off day you climb Mount Fuji, that's not that's a driven individual. You know what I mean? That's someone that's pushing themselves to do a little bit more, to go above and beyond, right? Challenge yourself. And so kind of how did you get into this? Like we were joking before we came on air. It's like, is there I don't know if there's like a caddy school. I don't know. Like how did you get into it?
Yeah. I mean, I was a failed player. I wanted to play professional golf, and I didn't succeed at it. And I just kind of had questions like, why is this not working for me? Like, what is going on? Why are these people really successful and I'm not? Like, what's the reason? There has to be a reason. I went to this meditation center in Thailand, and they kind of taught the idea of extreme accountability, and like kind of everything that's happening in your life is because of you, right? And so I kind of flipped my attitude towards everything, and I just kind of thought that it's like I have to do it. Nobody's gonna, if I want to be successful at whatever, like I need to change myself. So I kind of went on this journey of like, I want to get better. And then once I got a little bit better, then there's some ego, right? When you have some success, and then the ego comes in, and then a little bit of like, you get worse, or at least that's what happened with me. And then I realized what was happening. And so I kind of had to go back to those values. And that's kind of what happened with Tom, right? He won this tournament. I had a life-changing paycheck. We're riding a private jet to the next tournament. Like, I'm on cloud 9. But what I didn't realize is like, hey, this is Tom's win. Tom did all the hard work for the last 20 years or whatever to get this good, and he's just carrying me along. That's the reality. You know, I saw it as like, I helped this young kid, but the reality is like, he did most of the work. Sure, I probably played a tiny, small role in that. And the caddy does play a small role, whatever percentage it is or whatever it is. I always think of it as like, okay, well, we do play a small role, but whatever that role is, let me try to maximize it. So yeah, I just went on that journey of trying to get better, trying to improve myself, and I'm still on it, you know. Humbly right now, you know, we haven't had the best year on LIV, and like my future next year is not certain at all. Like what tour I'll be caddying on or who I'll be caddying on. So it's kind of like the next chapter for me, the next challenge. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, like what do you take from this season? Like as you reflect and you learn from like whatever you've been through, right? Every year I'm sure provides some new lessons where you're like, oh wow, never thought about that, or oh that's interesting, or you know what, I'm gonna add that, excuse the pun, to my bag, you know. But
yeah.
But anyway, so
Nice.
thank you. But yeah, like what's the learning like coming out of this year that wasn't what you'd planned that you're going to implement into your game, into your performance, that's going to make you a better caddy?
This year, I really learned what is important and what is not important, like week to week. So what I mean by that is like, some weeks you're on a new golf course you've never seen before, and it's an extremely difficult golf course. The conditions are difficult. It's windy. There's a lot going on. You need to spend a lot of time figuring out the golf course, getting out there, checking it out. Other weeks, maybe you've been to the golf course before. It's an easier golf course, and it's late in the season, so your guys, you can feel the pressure building because he's trying to get a certain ranking or result. So focusing your energy more on maybe helping him psychologically and making sure that all of those little things that you know could annoy him, that you avoid all of those and make sure that just all those little things are tidy. So kind of before I would say I had a fixed mindset of thinking I needed to do the same thing every week to be good, but now I'm realizing that it's a flow, and each week kind of has different challenges and different things that you need to be prepared for.
So I think one of the hardest things probably for the player out there is just staying focused, staying present. How do you do that? Like you're not playing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's how do you stay in the moment when you've got breaks in play? You know, pace of play is always a big issue out there. And then you have to also kind of deal with the crowd also, right? Make sure people are quiet in the backswing. But how do you stay locked in during a 4-hour round, right? 5-hour round.
So I do an hour of meditation in the morning, and that's crucial for me. If I don't do that, I'm going to be off for sure. And then the other thing is just trying to remain like detached from it all. So like, yeah, I really want to win, and I want my guy to play well, and it's way more fun when he's playing well.
Yeah, for sure.
But I try to just kind of cruise through it and like, all right, I need to do all this stuff, but I'm at the end of the day, like if that putt goes in or not, me reacting to it, it's not going to help me, and it's not going to help the golfer. So like what's going to help if he misses a short putt, he's already angry enough. If I get angry or I get frustrated, that energy is going to feed into him. He'll feel that. So if I can just remain kind of happy, or not, I mean, you're not going to be happy you missed a putt, but keeping your energy even. And how do I do that? Well, I use tools from our friend Jim Murphy. Like he's got the quiet loud tool. So you just like listen for the loudest sound you can hear, and then the quietest sound. Like you're doing this when the other guys are playing, you've got some free time, or just some close your eyes, breathing type stuff that helps just kind of bring you back. And I'm trying to do that. It's an ongoing journey. How do you stay present under pressure in your field of business?
I actually think it's a good question. I think for me, I have to really focus on unlike golf, this is what I love about golf, is golf, you have to kind of force yourself over 4 hours to limit yourself to one or two things, one or two thoughts, right? You got to kind of stay in it. In business, but the nature of it is to naturally let your mind not wander, but you're processing a lot of things, right? So sometimes for me to not focus in on just one thing, because I don't want to get too narrow in what I'm thinking about, like I'll just be watching multiple things. So if there's 4 or 5 people in a room, or if it's a high tense meeting, I'm kind of paying attention to body language. I'm just kind of trying to capture the energy of the room, and that helps me listen to what's being said. So I have kind of a weird thing where if I'm in a quiet room and you put like a 10-page anything in front of me, I'd have a hard time like focusing to read that. But if you put me in a room with like 3 or 4 different noises and it's loud and I can focus on that, no problem. So I've learned kind of tricks over time that if there's this kind of intense thing that I need to intently listen, I need to create other things that my mind is doing that helps me focus on that one thing. And so it's just kind of learning, for me, learning how I listen the best and how I stay locked in the best sometimes is to get my mind more active, like to get it really firing, right? It's like warming up a muscle. And so when I get in the golf course, that obviously doesn't help, right? And so then it's kind of almost, I feel like in golf, it's almost like I'm trying to meditate around the course, right? I mean, if you kind of think about your mind wandering and you pull it back, mind wandering, pull it back, that's what I've always felt meditation is this the art of failing to meditate, right? Mm-hmm, so every time you wander, you try to bring it back. So, I'm just, it's a game of opposites for me. So when I'm trying to focus on the golf course, it's totally different than what I do when I'm running the company. And I think that's why I love both things so much. It's a different mental challenge.
Cool.
It's good.
Basically, I'm crazy, so my mind's, it's a circus up here. So.
I know we're getting up against it, but I definitely have a couple more for you, if you don't mind. One thing that's definitely come through this whole time is just, 1, your attention to detail, 2, your drive to be the best at what you do, 3, the humility you have to make sure that you can serve the golfer that you get to work with the best way that you can, so they can go in there as level-headed, as neutral, as clear-minded as possible, right? And so with all those things, how did you remove, I guess, enough? You mentioned it earlier about removing ego, right? And it's like, I think anyone that's in a role that they're not front-facing, right? Probably one thing they might struggle with is their ego. Like, well, am I going to get credit? Like, hey, I was there, and we all struggle with that, right? I mean, we all have egos. And so how have you learned, because this is something you can learn, right? How have you learned to like put yourself in a position to make sure that you do your job? As you mentioned earlier, you're like, whatever percent of my role is, I'm going to maximize that, right? It's like, so that to me takes a high level of no ego, if that even makes sense. But how did you learn that? Like, how did you get to that place where you learned to remove ego so you could elevate the people around you?
Well, when I realized that it was only hurting me. So then, wanting to get credit or anything like that, it's just not helping get the result. So at the end of the day, like, this is a job for me, and it's a job for the golfer. And so if I want to do the best at my job and have the best possible results, well, my ego is just going to get in the way. And so I guess to answer a little better, sorry, I'm kind of drawing a blank.
No, I mean, it's a difficult, no. I mean, it's a difficult question, right? Because I think this to me is like almost like the heart of performance, right? Because it's like you look at the best teams in the world, and it is like egoless, man. It is like it's a thing of beauty to watch. You're like, holy cow! Like look at those girls, look at those guys, look at the way they share the ball, or look at the way they get after, whatever it is. It is like egoless. You look at the best performing teams in any company, kind of same thing. It's egoless. And being egoless though is learned. It's not normal. Like we we're born with ego. Like it is about me, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't think it's about you, just hang out with the baby for 2 minutes, you know? And it's like, we come into this world, it's about me. And so, and that's why I asked the question, and I know it's tough, right? But I do think the more that I believe, the more people are in situations where they're forced to remove it for the betterment of the team, which you are, right? Team of two, or actually it's probably more than that, right? But if you start including, mental performance coaches and everybody that goes kind of into that, physios and all that stuff.
Lot,
yeah. So who knows how big the team is? I'm sorry. But that to me is like the mecca. Like that's how you get to ultimate synergy, ultimate team performance, like the collaboration that comes from no ego, right? And it's like, so you've been on the journey, you dropped this bomb on us that you're doing extreme meditation in Thailand. Like I didn't see that one coming, and it's like, dude, Jacob's the most interesting caddy in the world, by the way. No. Well, actually you're the only caddy I know. So that would ultimately make you the most interesting, but yeah, so I don't know. And so that's why I asked the question. I know it's a hard one, but so just like the things you've learned, and Murph, you've had to do the same, right? You've had to evolve as a leader at ReliaQuest, where ReliaQuest was a company of one at one point, and now it's a company of 1,200 plus, right? And and you used to be, there's Murph, and now I've watched you evolve, right? And like it can't be about you. You say that all the time, right? And so you've gone through this process too, and so I don't know, like either of you can speak to it, right? I'm just curious, like your processes to go through that, because I know somebody listening to this is going through that same thing, right? They're struggling with like, I want credit, and it's like it ain't about you, I don't know.
Yeah, I always just say to myself, is this helpful? Is this not? And sometimes like if I can catch myself, we're all human, right? You want to react to something, you want to say something, but if I kind of just check, is what I'm about to say or what I'm about to do going to help this situation or hurt the situation? Mm-hmm. And sometimes I believe it's the things that you don't do are more important than the things that you do. And that's for me, been a big change over time. Is I love taking action, like just move forward. My least favorite 4-letter word is wait. I say it all the time. But sometimes, you know what? I may not like where this is going, but I need to sit this one out and I need to let this play out. Like this isn't for me to step in and moderate this. And there's other times where it absolutely is something that just needs to either start or stop happening right now. And that's a weird governor switch to know when you got to turn it off and when you have to turn it on. And we talk about this, DMAC, like, there's still, look, this is my life's work. I get fired up, and sometimes I'll get fiery in our leadership meetings. And I believe that, look, if you're in the room with me, we have a lot of trust. We know each other well. And sometimes we debate things, and it should get a little, it should get heated if you believe in something. And I'll call DMAC sometimes like, man, I don't know. And then DMAC a lot of times like, look, man, it's good every once in a while for people to see that side, right? To see that intensity come out. And I think it is a tough thing to manage. So how I like to break it up is, where am I? What's the moment I'm in, right? Who am I with? So are they with me all the time? Have they seen all 4 seasons of Brian? Have they seen me be calm? They see me? Because if you haven't and you're just meeting me the first time, probably not the best time for me to be intense, right? And I have a natural intensity level that's high, right? And so I have to walk that back. But it's really about controlling myself up or down to the moment I'm in and the room I'm in. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. You want to add to that? That was pretty darn good.
That was really good.
I'm
here to learn. So I'm learning.
Oh, this is great, man. I know we're getting up against it. One thing that we always end every No Show Dogs episode with is the same question, right? And the reason we call this No Show Dogs is because we don't talk about it.
Before we ask that question, I thought you were gonna ask this question. How's LIV? Like how's the difference, right? I mean, what's you don't have to get, but how's it been? Like what a change. You've played European Tour or Asian Tour, PGA, now LIV. I mean, is it just totally different?
I mean, for a caddy, it's amazing. It's like a dream come true. When I started caddying on the Asian Tour, I slept on the couch like 6 tournaments in a row. It was a grind, just barely scraping by. And now, they take care of our flights, hotel, food, so you're not spending anything for the whole week. And they treat us the same as the players. So I mean, on LIV, you've got 54 golfers, and then you've got 54 caddies, so you've got 108 people. On the PGA Tour, you've got 156 golfers and 156 caddies, so that's 300 whatever people. So they can't take care of that many people in all the same way, but on LIV, they can. And so we eat the same food, we have the same credential, we have there's physios that work for the LIV Tour that caddies can go and see whenever we want, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's, in every way, it's incredible. And all the people that work at LIV are amazing, and they just will help you with the most absurd stuff. I mean, last week we had a caddy tournament like put on, and the players were out caddying
Hilarious.
for the caddies.
Yeah.
And it was just
How's that
incredible.
trash talking? Pretty good?
Oh, it was so good.
I mean,
Yeah.
and you got to imagine the players probably get a kick out of that too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
tough guy. Yeah, grab that 5-iron.
Yeah.
See what you do with it.
Yeah.
Well, now I got to find out more about this caddy tournament. Hold on. Like, is it one round? Like,
It was just a 9-hole scramble.
Okay, scramble.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Any hole in ones? Any crazy shot? Anybody put up a performance where they're like,
Your
dang.
player give you some bad yardage?
Yeah. Like, I got to know a little bit more.
No, they the South African team, the Stingers, they took down the title this year. So they played really well. They shot, I think, 11 under on 9 holes in a scramble. It was amazing. So
We stink, Murph.
we-
If caddies are shooting 11 under,
11
we
under.
stink.
well, half
I don't
of
even
them
know what that
half of them
means.
are former players, so they all have some
Yeah.
game. And
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'm so glad you asked that question, because hearing him talk about sleeping on a couch for 6 weeks just to chase a dream, right? On
Yeah.
the Asian tour, I think it's probably going to get us to where, kind of this final question gets us, right? And the question we ask every guest is, like, what were the things that you've been willing to do that you think others weren't, that has helped you have the success you've had in your career, right? Like, you don't wake up as a professional caddy, right? Like, you work your way there. And so curious, like, when you reflect on your career, like, what do you think those things were that helped you get to where you are today?
yeah, I think one of the biggest ones was not taking things personal, because golfers, under the intense pressure that they're under, they can, say stuff, people might find it hurtful, or it's like, if you're playing at the NBA finals and you're on Kobe's team and you're like on the bench, you think he's gonna be like, hey bud, by the way, we need to hit that pick on the neck. No, he's like, come on,
Yeah.
you gotta get that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the energy. And so I was able, and you'd hear other caddies complain about, this or that. And I'm like, dude, it's not personal. Like, they're playing golf. Like, they're not going to say that to you at dinner. Like, it's just, and so I think that was one of the real things of just being like, okay, I'll take whatever, like, out there. And also just, I think just trying to get better and just understanding that I didn't know it all, and kind of having that mindset of like, I need to learn. I maybe met some caddies that were doing this for 20 years, and you could just see, they're 20 years maybe still on the Asian tour, which is fine if that's what they want to do. But it's like, okay, well, why? Why have they not tried to get on the tours that pay way more money? Like, why are they not? And you see some common traits, right? They're going out drinking at night. They're not trying to go the extra mile. They would just want to do the bare minimum to get by. So I think just willing to go the extra mile and do stuff that wasn't asked of me, and kind of take that initiative. I think that's probably the number one thing, which I think probably translates to most fields of work.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what I love so much about this podcast is, like, it doesn't matter which high performer we bring in, from which industry, from which team, knowing what you've done to help build this company. It's like, it tends to come down always to those things, right? It's like going the extra mile, taking initiative, always learning, knowing you don't know it all, asking questions, don't take things personal, right? It's like the same themes come up, and I just hope our listeners are getting this and going, hey, like, if you want to get better, if you want to take wherever you're at, right, whatever you are and whatever career you've chosen, it's like the reason why most everybody comes on here and says the same thing is because it works, right? Success leaves clues,
There's
right?
no magic, right?
Yeah, there's,
right.
like, you got to do the things. And
That's
so,
right.
And
Jacob,
I guess
yeah,
one
this is
thing
great.
I would add to
Yeah.
that really quickly is like you get what you earn. So when I was caddying and I wasn't doing well, like I didn't earn it yet. Like I didn't deserve to be, on the LIV or so like. And then I also believe that about like golf when you're not getting the results. It's like you haven't somewhere you're missing some piece of the pie, whether it be your body, your short game, whatever. So it's like, it's I think probably the same in business, right? Like it's tough to hear, but it's like, hey, if your business is not doing well, like you didn't earn it. Like,
Yeah.
and I know industries change, like, but that's kind of a thing I live by.
Yeah, I mean, look, the answer is typically in the mirror.
Yeah.
And whether it's relationships or business performance or athletic performance, or if I keep pulling out a 5-iron or a hybrid and I'm not hitting them well, I'm just an idiot that day. Just pick out something I am hitting well, and don't triple bogey, just bogey, right? I mean, it's so. The answer I think is always in the mirror. That's kind of the way, and that's what you can control, which makes it kind of simple.
Yeah.
Simple to understand. Simple things are seldom easy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you get what you earn.
Yeah.
So good, man. So good. Jacob, if people are looking to connect with you, or they're like, hey, I want to follow this guy climbing mountains and everything, like where can they find you at?
Oh yeah, just follow my Instagram, Fleck Golf.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming on
thank you
down.
guys for having me. This
Yeah,
was
thanks for
amazing.
being here.
Yeah, I've never been on a podcast before, but it was a great experience.
Cool, man. Well, we
Great.
appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, man.
thanks very much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go out and make it a great today.
Thank you.